The mountains of Logan, West Virginia hold a rich history. They tell the stories of the people who shaped the region: coal miners, pioneers, store clerks, everyone who built the foundation of what is now. Their lives were marked by both hardship and fate, now reflected in the weathered graves scattered across this area. Today we recognize the lives of two twins who passed away nearly a century ago. Their deaths must have been a profound tragedy for those who laid them to rest, as they chose to share a single headstone, allowing them to remain side by side for eternity. But who were these men? Jack and August Tusek were born in Yugoslavia, this South Slavic state, changing names and political systems along the way. Eventually, it fell apart under the wars and turmoil, splitting into independent nations. In 1907, the twins made their way to America. They landed in New York and journeyed to Logan, West Virginia. There, the coal mines promised jobs, security, and possibly a future. They chose to overlook the dangers. Death in the mines? That was a risk they believed happened to others, not to them. Jack and Mary Blazevich had built a life together, raising three children amidst the daily grind of the Hutchinson Coal Company at the Macbeth Mine in Logan County. Jack's brother August shared their routine, clocking in each day, but without a family of his own to return to. They were used to the rhythm of work, the familiar sounds of the mine echoing around them. But then, on March 11th, 1937, everything changed. An explosion rocked the sector too, just a mile from the slope entrance. That day, the expectation of returning home shattered into chaos, forever altering their lives. 17 days passed after the explosion. For those left behind, it felt like an eternity. Families were in agony, trapped in a nightmare. Each day dragged on, filled with uncertainty and despair. The wait for closure was suffocating. The blast, known as Macbeth 2, echoed through the mining company, a tragic reminder of its predecessor called Macbeth 1, which devastated the same site on September 2nd, 1936. That earlier disaster claimed 10 lives. The twins were laid to rest in separate vaults, yet united by a single headstone, a somber tribute to their shared fate. Among the victims was Jack, a devoted husband and father of three. His family faced dire financial strain, a burden that forced the family apart. The youngest child remained in Logan with its mother, Mary Elizabeth. Meanwhile, the two older siblings journeyed to Illinois, finding refuge with distant relatives. Each separation carved deeper wounds, a haunting legacy of loss and displacement for everybody involved. 18 killed in mine blast at Logan, Charleston Gazette, West Virginia, March 13th, 1937. The black depths of blasted Macbeth Mine held 9 dead men tonight, with the bodies of 9 others in the state's worst mine disaster in a decade rested in a funeral home. Stumbling rescue crews, so worn out that they could only speak with difficulty of the terrors of the blasts, had brought out 7 and had definitely located the bodies of 9 others. 2 of the 18 trapped when the blast let go last night were believed behind an almost impenetrable mass of slate, coal, and timber. It may be days before we go get them, said a weary member of the crew. No one held any hope that the 2 men were still alive. W.H. Myers, division superintendent of the Hutchinson Coal Company, came out of the mine after 23 hours and said, "The mine is not as bad as we thought. We're being hampered in rescue work by slate falls. I could put the mine in operation in 10 hours with a full crew of men." Can you believe that? N.P. Reinhardt, chief of the state mines department, said, however, he probably would recommend closing the operation for a day or so for safety measure. Reinhardt said most of the bodies would be out by tomorrow, although 2 might not be reached for a day or 2. While the tired crews carried on underground, relatives of those whose bodies were recovered started the sad duty of funeral arrangements. 8 services had been set for Sunday. The body of Joe Fry was the first to be recovered and returned to his little home tonight. Last September, they stood, as they did today, waiting for crews to bring out the dead. In the last blast, 10 men had died. The toll of this seemed certain to be around 18. The bodies were taken to a Logan funeral home to wait until morning. Relatives could then arrange for funeral services. Those men were Joe Fry, 28, motorman; Troy McCoy, 25, brakeman; Floyd Field, 30, section boss; Mike Guimo, 44, loader; Leonard Forbes, 30, loader; R.B. Kimball, 34, trackman; Tufan Podlaska, 42, loader; Fred McCrowski, 32. Prentice Farley, mine inspector, said these bodies have been located. August Tusek, 41, loader; Jack Tusek, 41, his twin brother, also a loader; Hubert Fleming, 37, motorman; George McCormick, 27, brakeman; Sam French, loader; Ronald Carnes, 30, loader. Farley said Earl Gearhart, 28, machineman, and James Wiley, 32, machineman, were behind the Great Slate Fall and most certainly were dead. At Washington, U.S. Bureau of Mine officials were informed by J.W. Grove of Pittsburgh that he believed the explosion was of electrical origin. While there was still some hope that the trapped men might yet be alive, the crowd around the pit mouth was quiet. But the arrival of body after body brought moans of despair from friends and cries of anguish from members of their families. Sudden piercing screams came from a mother holding a baby in her arms, and 3 other children were clinging to her dress, crying. They came from the widow of R.B. Kimball, a 34-year-old father of 6 children. Mrs. Kimball had refused to believe her husband had died, although he was among the first to be reported missing. Early in the afternoon, his mangled body passed her on a stretcher, and she collapsed. Men and women nearby could hear sounds of the anguished screams while relatives took Mrs. Kimball in their arms. "He was so good to me," she said. "He was so good to me," she sobbed as they led her away. Last September, she had lost her brother, Tim Tiller, in the same catastrophe. Fred Tiller, brother of the dead Tom, who had worked 16 continuous hours at rescue work, said he was positive none of the missing survived. The Hutchinson Coal Company, operator of Macbeth Mine, sent telegrams to relatives of all the victims scattered in 20 states. It arranged to care for the immediate needs of the families, and the United Mine Workers telegraphed funds. The rescuers are extremely tired. It is taking hours and hours to get bodies onto the hoist. Ambulances stood close to the pit mouth, and as bodies came out, 2 by 2, they received them and hurried them to the Logan funeral home. A short time later, they were back, waiting.
Bear with me, guys. I'm working my way through here. It's not easy. We'll just say that. It's not real easy. And Jack August Tusek, born 1896 and passed away in 1937.
In these old neglected cemeteries, surprises always await. Among the crumbling stones lie the remnants of lives once cherished. Each name tells a story, a connection to someone who mourned their absence. It's a somber thought that these souls, now freed from earthly bounds, remain unaware of the weeds and dirt that have now swallowed their final resting places. This is the cycle of life, a bittersweet truth we all must face. But today we honor Jack and August Tusek. Their memories linger, a reminder of the impact they had in life. Rest in peace, 2 more lives lost to the coal mining caves of West Virginia. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Hillbilly Files.